Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Chats from the Truck. As always, I'm Slicey, Dicey, Brian. Very happy to have this guest on for our fourth episode. Andrew Demko, everybody, of Demko Knives and Cold Steel Design fame.
Thank you. It's really good to be here with you today.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. This is the day before Thanksgiving. We're recording this, so I really do appreciate you taking some time off. When a lot of people are just taking the week off period, so I do appreciate you taking some time to come and do this with us. So you're one of the guests I got a lot of requests for, and I'm a big fan of your stuff. So I'm excited to talk to you too. I've had a few questions I've wanted to ask you for a long time. So,
okay.
Oh, no, just nothing too incriminating. I don't think the FBI will be called, but no, just a couple little questions. Again, yeah, thanks so much. I do want to tell everybody this is Chats from the Truck, but it's cold outside, so the next couple episodes of this over the winter might be Chats from my couch. I'm just talking to Andrew about that. I can't hear my truck idling; it's too loud. I tried it, and it just makes too much noise. So if I'm on the couch next time, it's because of the weather. And not too warm where you are either, right?
No, it's snowing out right now, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Probably about the same.
Yeah, we're the same kind of latitude and longitude area. I had we had snow last night, but it's all gone this morning. But it's like 40 out, but we don't have too many days of 40 left, I don't think.
No.
So it's been weird up here though. I don't know how it is there. Like we don't get as much snow as we used to. It's crazy. Like
Yeah, it seems like when I was younger, when I was a kid, we got a lot more snow. Sometimes now I don't have to plow the driveway like the last few years, but before we used to get snowed in. So
yeah,
change.
knock on wood. Last year my son still lives with me right now, so he shovels the driveway because he's 21 and 6'5". He can shovel the driveway. But he only had to do it twice last year.
Yeah.
And for Rochester, New York, that is insane.
Yeah, really.
But what made me want to talk to you is I just did that little kind of ode to you sort of video because the last couple of years I've really gotten into your stuff a whole lot, whether it be cold steels or now I've got a couple of your, I don't know what you want to call them. That is one question I want to ask. Do you consider your knives to the MG, the machine ground? Do you consider them to be like I say mid-techy thing because I don't know exactly how to describe them, but they're more custom than a lot of mid-techs. But that whole mid-tech moniker, I don't understand, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we don't use the term mid-tech. I just personally, I don't really like it, the term, because I think it became over the years, it's such a broad term that it's just, who the hell knows what's mid-tech, because a lot of times the mid-tech knife is not even made by the maker. So it's basically like maybe a small production run by a OEM factory or something.
Yeah.
And or it's we're trying to make our own knives. So.
A bunch of parts put together from other places. So do you just consider yours just to be customs, the ones that you get actually from Demko?
No, I don't really say they're customs either. I don't know what they are. But what I can tell you.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one confused.
No, that's why we give the moniker of an MG or we just say a custom. And the only difference is that a custom, for a folding knife, a custom would have the hand ground blade and the MG would have the machine ground blade, but every other single step of the process is all the exact same. Everything's like all the machining's done in-house and the cutting. And so aside from the last bevel grind or hollow grind, whatever applied by hand by me, or save you a bunch of money and give you a knife just as good, send it out to a vendor who will bevel grind it for me. And then I'm able to give you basically the same knife as the custom knife, but way less money because I don't have to suffer behind a belt grinder.
Yeah, that's
kind of what I want to do. So.
And that's what I've gone with my two because I'm cheap. So, but I love it. And I talked to John when I ordered my 80/20, which we'll talk about in a minute. I got it to be a user beater, and that's how I use it. I mean, it's still not an inexpensive knife, but I know it can take it, and I don't think twice about just using it and kind of beating on it. And that's part of the reason why I went with the MG instead of the full custom.
Well, I carry an MG as well. So
good. I'm going to tell everybody that whenever they say, "Oh, you don't have the custom," I'll be like, Andrew doesn't carry one either.
Really the customs are mainly if you want something with a hollow grind, something that's different from the MG grind or different materials. I like to play with other materials. So, you can only do the MGs in larger runs because you can heat treat it and then they go to the grind house and get all ground.
Yeah.
But what I do is, so we use 20 CV or 3V mostly. But also I like to use, actually the one I carry is this one with
Oh, nice.
crew clad CPM 154 and 90V core. So basically, if you really want a different steel and maybe a different grind or different bevel height or thickness or something really special, then I would recommend the custom. But other than that, an MG is where to go. Same
Yeah,
performance, basically less money.
I love both of mine. Both of mine are MGs. I have an 8015 and an 8020. So it took me a hot minute to find an 8015. when I ordered my 8020, I was talking to John and I said, "Are you guys doing 8015s anytime soon?" And he pretty unequivocally said no. So
He has to work a lot harder on the 8015s.
yeah. Well, luckily I have 20,000 viewers, so I just mentioned that I was looking for one, and a couple weeks later, somebody messaged me with a really nice micarta one. I have it here, actually. I'm sure you don't remember it because you make so many knives, but the brown micarta.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't do too many of those, but that's really popular. That natural micarta.
Yeah, and it's just that noise it makes. That's the thing I noticed different from. I've had a couple of the cold steel versions, and that's the one thing I noticed that's the biggest difference. Is it's a little smoother, and just the cold steel one doesn't make that tink, when you open it. That I just love that noise that it makes when you fling it open. But yeah, great knife. So I'm going to ask you one question and get it out of the way, and then probably everybody will stop watching because this is, I know, the number one question I get, because I told them I got my knife directly from you, and somehow everybody thinks that makes us friends. So they think I have inside information. Is there going to be a cold steel 8020?
Highly unlikely, but you never know.
Yeah, that's kind of I said that I know the last time I saw him mention it, he said there were no plans.
Yeah. Well, I never had plans on the other stuff either, and eventually I just said, hey, you know what? We should probably do this for cold steel to Lynn Thompson. But my whole long-term goal for the last 16 years or so has been to came together with this knife for Demko Knives. So I at this point I tend to just do it all ourselves.
Yeah, it's an amazing lock. You can see some little influences from the triad lock, but it's so completely, different in other ways, and it's just so fidgety. And that's what I've got in my pocket now, and it's only partly to be a kiss ass because I knew I was going to have you on this. But yeah, I carry my 8020 all the time, and it's just so much fun for being such a big knife. Well, but it's not that big, I guess. That's what everybody says. Oh, it's a really big knife, but I guess my definition of big has changed.
You know what? Yeah, to me, it's so small.
Yeah.
The 8010 and the 15 and the 20, they're all relatively. 8010's wider.
Yeah.
But they're all to me, they're all a little bit small. But that's why I did the 4MAX, because the 8010 was just not quite enough for what I like to do and what I like to carry. So yeah, I'm stunned when people go, that knife is huge or that's way too big. But
yeah,
I was an electrician, and I was used to having a lot of tools in my pockets and pliers, side cutters, and carrying a lot of weight in carpenter jeans. So a really big Foley knife never really never bothered me whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think I've been doing this channel now for 3 years, and I think over time I have transitioned to larger and larger. Like you said, you get used to having stuff in your pockets all the time. So being a reviewer, I usually have 2 knives in my pocket. So there's that, and then I'm one of those filthy, stupid vape people, so I have one of those in my pocket, and it's just everything just keeps getting bigger over time, and after a while, it just doesn't matter as much. And I think part of the reason why I've gotten into larger knives is because of your designs, because I have it out here. It's kind of one of the mascots of the channel, and I apologize, but my viewers will unsubscribe if I don't do the song. So I have the first Cold Steel that I got was the American Lawman. We'd have a little song for it because I said that the logo looks like the logo for a 1980s television show starring Chuck
Yes.
Norris. So it's cool, but that's definitely, what it looks like. So somebody made the whole American Lawman song. So whenever I bring the knife out, I have to say it. It's stupid to sing song anyway. But when I first started the channel, there was a few knives that I wanted to get, it was kind of benchmark stuff because I wasn't nearly as into knives as I am now when I started the channel. And I wanted a Cold Steel of some kind. And this is the one that spoke to me the most. And it had that triad lock. And, I wanted to try that out. And this is one of the old XHP hollow ground ones too. So I will never let this one go.
Yeah, keep that.
Yeah. But it kind of made me fall in love with, like, it didn't need to be a fidgety lock, the triad lock isn't that fidgety, but it made me still really like and appreciate how strong it is. And this one is very lightweight and very easy to EDC, but it was just kind of that gateway into Cold Steel, and that got me into some bigger knives. And then it was Hinderers, then it was, Chris Reeves and stuff like that. And then it came back around to you, where now I'm buying the MGs, and I'm sure the two that I have will not be the last two that I ever have. Well, how did the triad lock thing come about, and like you and your relationship with Cold Steel? I know a lot of people don't really understand exactly how that worked.
I met Cold Steel at the Blade Show, I think maybe like in 2000 or so, and I was making a frame lock. I was making frame locks, liner locks, and frame locks at the time, although I hated them. But I like locks. I like folding knives. That's my thing. But and I had the knife that Lynn he was looking around, came to the table, and it was, I don't even know what I called it, to be honest with you. I only made a few, but he liked it. And he said he owned the name AK-47. So he wanted to use that design and call it the AK-47. And then it became the Ultra Lock, the Axis lock type of knife, the AK-47. And so they bought that design from me, and it just kind of formed a relationship. And so I did some freelance stuff, just some redesigns. And then a couple years later, I went on full time as a knife maker, knife designer. And actually, I had the idea because I was always trying to. In 1993, I started making locking mechanisms. Never anything good. Maybe I should revisit some of those. I could probably do them now.
Yeah.
But I was always tinkering. Yeah, I have more technology and more practice. So anyway, I was like, I knew I could do something better with a lock back, because the main thing about the liner lock or frame locks, is that they have a pivot, they have the lock bar, and then they have a stop pin. The stop pin obviously is very important and absolutely useful, unless you're using your thumb studs to stop the blade or whatever. So I thought, wow, that really works good in the liner lock and frame lock. So, and I knew, I had been very aware of Cold Steel ever since I was a little kid. My family has a martial arts school. So growing up, with Black Belt magazine and stuff, we always saw the picture of Cold Steel stabbing the knife, I think through a guy's hand in a poker game or some kind of cool. When you're fourth grade, it's a pretty kick-ass ad, And
well, I think a lot about their advertising to this day really appeals to a 4-year-old kid.
Absolutely, absolutely does, yeah. And so anyway, I was very aware, and we used to. Could never actually, when I was a young kid, I could never afford a Cold Steel knife, obviously. But eventually, I ended up with a Recon Tanta II, very cheaply from the Special Projects catalog. And then I watched her videos and I saw the locks tests. And anyway, so fast forward back to 2000, I thought that I could improve the lock back because I knew how it felt usually. And with adding that stop pin, that's the simple process. Add the stop pin to the lock back, and then you basically have the bones of the triad lock. And I had already at that time worked on a bunch of other locks for myself. None good enough to even produce. Well, maybe they could have been, but they never came. Never happened. but I was really into making locks and with different angles and radiuses and offset radiuses and some really goofy stuff. And I thought, oh man, I can make a lock back really good. So I told Lynn, I said, hey, I have this idea. I didn't work for them at the time. I said, I have this idea. I think I can really improve your lock backs. Because, you know, Cold Steel was always doing this weight hangs where the large Voyager would hold 80 pounds. And I was like, I think I can really, really improve that. So I said, hey, we can get, if this works out, you know, we can get the patent. I'll assign it to you. You pay for the patent. I don't own the Triad lock patent. It's assigned to Cold Steel. However, I do collect royalties, so please buy Triad locks. But anyway, so I made the deal with Lynn, and I made the knife, and you know, the Lawman I think was the very first production Triad lock, and that was it, and it became amazingly strong and good, and you know, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah,
that
it's funny you said 80 pounds because now what is on the Triad locks? It's like hundreds
of pounds.
Yeah,
and I remember.
So he was bragging about 80 pounds, and now it's
yeah.
Yeah.
I sent in one knife. I had a whole different lock. As I was working on the Triad lock, I call it the intersecting radius lock, and they would do the video. You know, the big guy Robert, he would test the knife and they would hang weight, and they're doing the video. Lynn's standing, he's standing back there watching, and he's like, if it held 80, it held 100, held 180, and then it was like the 200. And Lynn's like, if this holds 200 pounds, we're gonna go on a holiday, like, because you know the best was 80, and anyway, it did, and it was like, wow, I'm really getting somewhere. Then anyway, so the Triad lock, I kept on refining that, and it just got to be incredibly strong and durable, and with easy materials. Like, you know, you don't need liners. Liners are cool, but G10 is strong enough. So then, we just kept on developing the Triad lock, and it's a pretty awesome lock. It's really hard to beat.
Yeah, it's definitely like you can, you know, part of you being a cynical human want to think, oh, it's the strongest lock in the industry. It's probably partly marketing BS, but like the first time you flick one open, you can kind of feel it almost. You can just feel like, oh, this is something pretty serious. Like it just has that, even though they don't have liners and stuff, a lot of them are, you know, very light. They just feel like a Recon 1 or something like that. You just know, like, that thing nothing's going to happen to this.
Yeah, that's strong. And, you know, you can always somebody can make a stronger knife, you know, make it bigger, thicker, wider. You know, if you make a giant frame lock with half-inch, you know what I mean, scales, it's going to be big, or it's going to be strong. But, you know, the Triad lock, you know, for a very minimal weight, you know, you can make a really tough and really strong knife. You know, even like the plastic knives that are just either like injection molded handles, no liners, no nested liners, nothing. And they're still stronger than a lot of competitors' knives that have steel liners and, you know, weigh much more and are more expensive. That's the strong suit of the Triad. It can be so simply made, but yet it's super high performance.
Now, how does I don't know if you've done the full on, you know, hanging weights and stuff, but how does the Shark lock compare to that's in the 80/20?
The Shark lock is very, very comparable. There's going to be stronger Triad locks, and there's others that are not as strong. You know, where the Shark lock really will shine is the Triad lock. To be its strongest, it has to have a thick blade. So the blade, like in your Lawman, I think that's like a 4mm blade, like a 5/32 blade. But then when you bump it up to 5mm, it's way stronger, because you know how the back of a lock back looks. There's a notch in there where the lock sits in. What happens every time is that steel breaks. And the only way you can make that stronger, well, you can make it big wide, so you gain leverage, like on the Espadas. That's why they're so big in the front. So you can gain strength by leverage, by putting if your pivot's here, you know, and your lock is here versus up here, this one's stronger if it's the same, because of the leverage. But you make it thicker, and then it's automatically stronger. So for the Triad lock, you can do that like a Formax. You know, I just tested the Formax Scout 5mm blade.
Yeah, I actually have that one right here, because I was going to talk about that in a minute, but I love
kick-ass. It's a great knife. It's awesome. For the money, it's like,
Well, we're getting ourselves off track, but I think what I love about it the most is let's be honest, it's kind of silly. Like for a lot of people, it's kind of silly, but it's priced right where that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like and that's what I love about what Cold Steel's done this year. And I don't know how much influence you had on that, but just a lot of their big silly stuff comes in these lights and scouts and stuff like that. So now they're more affordable. So
Yeah.
you're not buying like I have a Voyager Chris XL, which I'll never leave the house with that thing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it was $100, so it's fine. You know, but back when the knives like that, you know, were like the original Formax was what, almost 400, something like that.
Yes.
I had them both, and I actually used the I had an American one, and I use it in a giveaway video because I like this just as much. You can't when it's in your hand, you can hardly tell the difference.
No.
And
The only difference is the cost of the material, really. You
yeah,
know, that the Formax, both the Italian and American one, they were all titanium,
yeah,
all the parts, well, except for the pins,
yeah,
all the liners and backspacers. And that, I mean, that jumps your cost up like it's crazy.
yeah,
You know, it's a little bit lighter, but really there's no benefit other than it's really cool. And
yeah.
if you want to spend more money, then that's the way to go. But the Formax Lite is, for the money, it's a lot of knife.
Yeah, I carry the Scout. Like this is another one that people think you can't carry a Formax. Yes, it's very heavy. This is what, 10 ounces, I think,
I
for the
think just
Scout.
about 10. Yeah.
It's very heavy, but other than that, they're not that horrible to carry. I mean, you're not going to put anything else in that pocket. If you have it in your right front pocket,
Yeah.
it's probably just this. But it's not that horribly uncomfortable. I can sit down with it in my pocket and stuff, you know. And I actually started carrying it a lot during the first lockdown. When we first got locked down, and I'm like, screw it, I'm not leaving the house. I'm going to carry wherever the hell I want to.
Yeah.
And I was walking around my house, not doing anything, just with this big, you know, giant Cold Steel in my pocket. But I just fell in love with the thing, and I I love that it has just the right amount of annoyance to my wife. Like it's not enough that she starts looking for lawyers, but the noise, you know, bothers her when I open it up to, you know, cut open an envelope, you know, with a Formax, and she's like, "Oh, come on." But she did use it the other day, though. We have like a kind of office size tree, like in our living room, and the top of it was dying. It was about, you know, inch and a half around, and she had to lop the top off. And she said, "Do you have a big knife I can use to cut the top of the tree?" I said, "Oh yeah, I got you." And I gave her this, so um,
Nice.
she could figure out how to use it. But yeah, I just love that. I just think that's a really smart thing that's going on there to make the big silly stuff an impulse buy price instead
Yeah.
of being an investment price. You know, because it gives us knife idiots to you know, permission to have one or two really big stupid knives that you don't have a crap ton of money into,
Right. Yeah.
but you still get a lot of enjoyment out of, and you know, you hardly ever use. But I mean, I use the Formax, but yeah, that Chris Voyager, I will probably rarely use it. It lays next to my bed. I figure if somebody breaks into my house and I come running at them naked with that, they're gonna leave.
Yes. Yes.
Either way, it's not going good. So, but I did want to talk about a couple more models that you've done with Cold Steel. I can't go through the whole discography. We'd be here for 4 hours. But new one this year, and I know this is going to be on one of my top 10 lists for the end of the year for the budget stuff. The Air Lite.
Yes.
I saw you talk about how this was made. Do you want to tell that story again? Because I thought it was very interesting.
Well, let me make sure my story is the right one. It was the broken skull
Yes.
that I wanted
Yeah.
to. Okay, so yeah, we did the broken skull. First of all, the broken skull, if you remember, you may not because no one cared about it.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Was the
I
the
have
one
that.
before it was the Lone Star Hunter. Do you remember that?
That I do not.
So the Lone Star Hunter, same exact perimeter as the broken skull. Basically like a classic like Camillus slip joint knife that we had still not steel liners, a steel frame, and a faux stag scale on top of it.
Yeah.
And it was okay, but it was heavy, and it's kind of old school. Wouldn't like that, and I'm not really into the old school stuff. I appreciate all knives, but anyway, so that wasn't. He really liked the blade shape and the design of that knife, but I said, well, maybe we should just modernize it. So then we said, okay, let's take the same knife, and it was heavy because it had a steel frame,
Yeah.
really heavy. And let's take the same knife and let's just say, well, if you were going to make that knife, instead of it's 60 years ago, make it today. So we used XHP, full taper ground blade, flat ground blade, and then thin G10 handles. And the weight went down, like half the weight. And it was a really cool, slim, easy carry knife. But then for me, it was still like, oh, that's ugly. Like it's just, I like the blade, but the handle, the old, I wasn't into it. So I had my own that I modified, and I cut grooves in it, and I made it more like just per my tastes.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, I was like, this is awesome. So we need to take the same. We went from the classic, the copy of a classic, then to the G10 XHP, the modern version of the classic. And then from there, we were like, all right, we're going to forget about the classic outline because this width, thickness, everything is so good on this knife. Let's now modernize it to what's like a modern knife that, say you design it today on the drawing board without saying, oh, I want to make this old-fashioned Camillus clip point knife type of thing. And so then we did the Tanto point and a clip point. And it's a cool, lightweight, very light, easy carry. Very nice knife.
Yeah, I've described it multiple times as it's just one of those knives that is greater than the sum of its parts. It's just there's nothing remarkable about it on a stat sheet.
Yeah, right.
At the price and everything, there's nothing that stands out to you like, oh my God, I have to have that. But once you have it in your hand, it's just such an amazing knife. I remember I kind of got it it was a new cold steel, and cold steel always gets clicks. So I got it, for that. And I probably have, I don't know, 14 or 15, but I got it, just kind of for that. Didn't plan on loving it and wanting to keep it or anything. And I just immediately fell in love with it. As soon as I took it out of the box, I just was like, there's just something about this thing. And I love Cold Steel's Tantos. If you're going to get a Tanto, they do a very, very, very good job. So if I have the option on anything, I order Tanto from them. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, but it's just, this is just a fantastic design that you did on this. It's just, like I said, it's nothing complicated, but
oh no,
it just freaking works.
That's one of those ones where it's so simple. There's not like finger grooves all over the place, and it's just, there's like 6 lines on the handle that make up the handle, and that's it. It's a basic knife, but sometimes simpler is better.
And I know some people roll their eyes at that AUS 10A, but I think that's being less and less. But I think they just see AUS and they think something else. But I always say that Cold Steel always does, their heat treat's always better than everybody else's anyway.
Well, I'll tell you about that. But the 10As, it's pretty darn good. 8A, it seems like it get dulls pretty quick. And a lot of the reason for the 8A is, fixed blades, the sheaths actually dull it when you're pulling it out and you're cutting into the sheaths because they have glass in them, glass filled nylon. But the 8A was okay. But the 10A is definitely, sure, it's an entry level, not entry level like, junk steel. Yeah, it's decent steel. I have no issues with 10A for the price. And I'll tell you why you would think that Cold Steel's 8A is better, because so many other companies we found were not using 8A. They're using 6A and calling it 8A, or they're using 8 chrome 13 MOV, which is the Chinese equivalent of 8A, and just marking it 8A. We absolutely know this firsthand because we've seen it done, and we use some of the same manufacturers. And we're like, hey, we got to get this price down. He goes, oh, guy, you just use 6A instead of 8A. Call it 8A. But yeah, Lynn's like, no, we don't do any of that stuff. So well, that's sometimes why 8A that's what killed 8A's reputation.
Those people not using the real stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. I'd never heard that before.
That's a fact, believe me.
But it's even like your 8CR is better than everybody else's 8CR. Like there's still some heat treats, magic, voodoo.
Well, definitely. That's definitely true.
Because I notice that all the time.
You're going to get better heat treat on the 8CR in Taiwan than HCR in China, typically, I would think.
Yeah.
Not that you can't get good in China either, but I will tell you this, the HCR is, in all the Chinese steels, very inconsistent. So you
Yeah.
gotta, like, when you get the steel from Japan, the Japanese people, they are meticulous. That steel is the same. You can get it, you can send it to a lab and get it tested from here to 20 years ago, and it's all the same, perfect consistency. But HCR and stuff like that, who
Well, yeah, and like
cross your fingers.
another maker was explained to me that like D2 doesn't mean anything over there. Like in America, we have a D2 that means it's this composition, but over there, D2 just means tool steel.
Well,
So
you know
it's
what?
not the same. Like one
Yeah.
factory's D2 is completely different than the other. They're just both technically a tool steel.
Well, you may not be aware, but we had a huge controversy at Cold Steel because we were trying to bring out A2,
Yeah,
and A2 is pretty awesome steel for, not a powdered brand new super steel. It's pretty awesome steel.
yeah,
And we're trying to find some new steels to use in Taiwan. They're like, oh, we can do. I was like, what? You can do A2? Because I really like A2, and had a very attractive price because all tool steels in America are expensive. If they have a letter before the name, they are expensive.
mm-hmm.
There's more money in the processing, and they're always finished properly. And anyway, so turns out we tried for over a year to get their A2 to work as good as my A2 did. It was heat treated here, yeah, Peter's heat treating, and our samples we made.
Oh,
Never ever.
my UPS guy's making a cameo.
That's okay.
Hi,
But yeah,
Dave.
it could never match. We could never get the Asian A2 anywhere
Yeah.
near as good as the quality of A2 that we're getting in America. So that's not surprising on the tool steels.
Yeah, because that's just the way it's explained to me is that it doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of a generic label over there. But
Yeah.
but yeah, another thing I want to talk about is like you kind of brushed on it, but what is the process from when one of your customs like the 8010 or the Formax, becomes a cold steel? Is that usually you approaching Lynn or Lynn approaching you, or like how does that usually go down?
Um, Usually, well, on the 8015 and 8010, I approached him, but on the Formax, they asked me about it. And what happened on the 10 and 15 is I felt that the lineup the year before was kind of weak um, for what Cold
Yeah.
Steel was putting out for. I don't know if it was 2019. I don't know what year it was.
Yeah, it was
Right?
18. These came out in 19. So yeah.
It might have been the 18 lineup.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not, you know what I mean? That's not kicking anyone's butt here. And I was really, really wanting to bring out, really, hit hard. And so that's when I said, you know what, we got to bring out the big guns. And I said, maybe we should produce the 80, 10, and 15. And that's what we did. And it was a really good thing because I think the first batch of 80, 10s and 15s, I mean, they sold out in like days.
Oh, instantly. Yeah. I managed to get both and still have an 8010. That's my second 8010 though. I traded my original 8010 and then I bought another one, but now I have the real 8015, so I don't have that anymore. But I will say though that when those two knives came out, I remember seeing it on Knife News or something like that, and that woke everybody the F up to cold
Yeah.
steel. That's for sure. Like those were like the hottest thing, for a good couple 3 months there when they first came out.
Yeah,
And
they're still selling really well.
yeah, they still whenever like they just changed the colorway on the 8015. That was
Yep.
those sold out pretty quick, the black ones. And yeah, it's those are so faithful to the customs. Like now having owned an 8015 and then my friend had an 8010, so I've held a custom 8010. They are so faithful, like as that's really kind of, I don't know, lack of a better word, sort of a selfless thing for you to take. I mean, you work for Cold Steel, but still that this is your baby that you're passing along, to a larger company to carry forth with, and just allowing it to be so close, to
Hmm.
what the custom is. That's rarely seen in the knife.
Well, Yeah, you know what? I never really considered any of that. I didn't know that, but I wanted to make the best one. And you know what? Some of my customers got mad at me about that. They sold their AD10s. And I was like, it's not going to be anywhere near the original AD10 because first of all, the blades, the 5/32 blade instead of the 3/16. There's no titanium. There's no
Yeah.
options. But I mean, here's the thing: those AD10s were going for $1,500 now.
Yeah.
What's wrong with letting somebody buy a factory made in Taiwan AD10 for $100? I mean, that to me that makes me feel great because for a long time, I don't know if I'd buy a $1,500 knife now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money.
Yeah. I don't own any expensive.
For a long time, you know what I mean? It's like I could never
Yeah.
afford anything like that. And you see the custom AD10, but you're 18 years old or whatever, but you can ask for the cold steel version. That's I don't know how much they're. I think the retails,
Couple hundred.
yeah, maybe 160 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. Now I think they're on sale everywhere, but they've been on sale everywhere for a long time. I think the price just changed, but
Yeah.
um,
So
but
I,
yeah. So I guess you have something you created that you're proud of, and you just want to get it out there to everybody as
yes,
faithfully as reproduced as it can be.
and I wanted it. I wanted it to do the thick blade, but we were trying to meet a price point.
Yeah.
Um, so and the weight. Lynn Thompson is very much not into heavy knives. He hates heavy knives. If it's a big knife, it's heavy, okay, but a small knife, and he wanted it to be less weight. That's why it has aluminum liners and not steel.
Yeah.
Um, but it does not step on the feet of the custom 8010 at all, and I think it's a great value. And yeah, it's just like the original one because when I work with the manufacturers, I send them all my CAD files and everything, and then they just use them. So it's not like there's nothing different about it other than maybe they have to change something for manufacturing, because
Yeah.
those blades are blank, they're stamped out and stuff. So there's some differences. Um, but I wanted it to be exactly as possible, other than I knew it wouldn't have, the titanium and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I just wanted to touch on that because I just know like that's it kind because there are a lot of um not even just in the knife world too, and I'm come from the bicycle industry same way. When a custom designer lets something go production, they kind of dial it back a bit.
Well, you know what I would say if you had asked me that and I thought about it, I would say, and I would tell this to the knife maker, you should improve your own and let them make what you're making now and you improve.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
That's what I would try to do.
Yeah. I mean, and you have because you can see that from like the lock designs just keep getting crazier and crazier. Like the scorpion lock, we're like, whoa, that's weird. It's really cool, but it works awesome. But now the shark lock is completely unique. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you're just continually improving your own stuff, and then let them
Yeah.
make your old
Right.
stuff.
And when I knew I was moving on to the shark lock too on the 8015. I'm not saying I gave Cold Steel my leftovers. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, I get what you're saying.
But,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
my concentration was then on the shark lock. And so, you know, what's the harm in Cold Steel making a great version that's affordable for a lot of people?
yeah. It's just I think it's a very magnanimous way to look at it, and yeah, like you said, it probably motivates you to do better stuff and keep innovating.
Well, and it's funny too is I say, well, improve your own stuff because a lot of times you see the knives that are coming out of China and you don't even know they're not custom knives. They're
Yeah,
like custom made frame locks. I'm like, my brother and I walk around and I'm like, wow, that looks like a custom knife. He's like, yeah, it looks all the same.
a lot
Maybe
of
they're
them are
making.
better.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Holy cow! If people, because China's considered a low end, low end knife.
Mhm.
There's a bad stigma from stuff from China. Although there's great knives made out of China, and I know a
Yeah,
lot of. I've been to China many times with Cold Steel, and it's been wonderful. But hey, if these guys who are considered the very low level as far as the knives, say at the blade show,
hmm,
if they look and are as good as your stuff, it's time to do something else.
yeah,
You know, so that's my thing is, hey, there's a lot of way better knife makers than me. Make better, nicer, more beautiful knives. My knives aren't really that beautiful. That's not my. I'm not into beauty, but hey, I might not.
You accidentally hit it sometimes though. I think
Sometimes
I think
it's
like the 8015 is a really cool looking knife, and the 8020 just looks kind of badass. I would call the 8010 pretty. I think it's got some good lines to it.
but that stuff just happens. It's a consequence of the design, and
Yeah.
sometimes it just comes together. But that's where I feel like my strong point is, because I cannot make a knife as nice as Ellen Elishowitz does. I can't
Yeah.
do it. I mean, this stuff's beautiful. I
Mhm.
can't even. I'll never. My Damascus or Damascus will never look at that nice. I gotta do things that other people, aren't doing, which is unique locking mechanisms that are functionally awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind of my goal in the industry.
I, I'll wrap it. I'll wrap it up with this because I need to get him on the show sometime too. I've only met him once, kind of briefly. But what's it like having to walk into the office with Lynn Thompson every day? Is he the cartoon that he appears to be
Well, the
all the
funny thing,
time?
here's the thing. Lynn's in California, and I only see him about twice a year. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not there in the office. I keep forgetting that. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you'd have to ask somebody at Cold Still that, and I'm sure you'd enjoy it.
I think the best way I've heard him described is Pete from Cedric and Ada Outdoors, really good YouTube channel, Australian guy. He said, like you watch the videos of all the Cold Steel videos, the promo stuff, and Lynn Thompson in interviews. He said, I think that is just a man living his best life. Like
Yes.
he's what all of us wanted to be when we were 12, and
Well,
he's
you know what, Lynn?
just
He
done
does
it.
what he wants to do, and he's
Yep.
enjoying himself. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like oh shit, I got to get up early today, and I have to go out and hack at grass mats with a sword all day. Oh, horrible me. You know, I gotta throw spears at a pig carcass all afternoon. What a terrible
Yep.
day I have. It's just like,
Yep. Yeah. He has the warrior lifestyle, they call it there. It's this thing. It's he's living the warrior lifestyle. So
yeah,
he comes in, he goes through some emails, calls me up, then he trains. He does a lot of martial arts and
yeah,
some other stuff. And then they sometimes they go out to his ranch and they're filming or they're going shooting, and it's
mhm.
like it's to be Lynn is pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like he's having a good time. He's not short on entertainment. That is absolutely
No, he's and he
either.
loves what he's doing, and the best thing I like about Lynn is he really, really wants to make a good knife. Um,
Yeah,
no, even if it's a $49 knife, it's going to be the best $49 knife that's capable of being made, that we're capable of making anyway. And
yeah,
that's the thing I really appreciate. It's just like not mass marketing where, the $49.99 knife is going to be held to the same standard, maybe not as strong because it's not the same materials, but the same standard as the $400 knife.
yeah,
It all has to work the same way.
yeah.
So,
And you can definitely see that across the whole line. But you got any big plans for tomorrow for Thanksgiving? Are you having family in, or are you guys staying apart because of the global?
well, we're just a small little group here, and
Yeah,
we're always there's only a few of us, and we're all living next to each other anyway in the same area, only a couple miles apart in the country.
yeah.
So yeah, we're just gonna have it's just a small thing. I'm gonna big green egg, a couple turkeys,
I ch- I
and
cheaped I cheaped out this year. Most of my Thanksgiving is coming out of boxes, so because it's just us and maybe the kids. I don't know if the kids are even going to be here. So
oh really?
they both have boyfriends and girlfriends, and they're not sure if they're going or not yet. So I gotta it might just be my wife and I. So I got just a turkey breast and mashed potatoes in a plastic thing. They're really good though. I've had them before, but just I'm just doing it cheap and easy uh,
Yeah,
this time around. But we'll go all out for Christmas. Hopefully things will be a little better.
I
But
hope so.
but who knows? We're locking down again now, and they say it's because they want people to be able to go out at Christmas time. So if we lock down for 3 weeks now, then maybe by Christmas
Yeah. Well,
people will
you
be
know
able to.
what? It's none of this has actually affected me because I'm so secluded, and we are working at the cold still shop. There's only one other guy with me. At my shop at home, just my brother,
Hmm.
and that's it. So I haven't had my life has not changed, believe it or not, this whole
Yeah.
entire year. I've not been able to not do anything because I don't do anything.
So you hadn't noticed. If
No,
you
I
didn't
didn't.
look at the news, you never would have known.
No, I don't leave. I don't try not to leave my property. There's a lot of woods around here, and I lift weights. I go on 4-wheeler rides. I shoot guns, and I've been doing the same thing no matter what happens. It's just like I'm, I'm like it's like I'm in Alaska but PA.
Yeah.
I haven't
Well,
haven't noticed anything.
I mean, I'm from right across the PA border. I mean, literally, I was born like 30 miles from the PA border in the southern tier at the southern end of the Finger Lakes,
Okay.
and I have family in Harrisburg. So spent a lot. Yeah, people
Yeah,
don't realize how rural PA and New York actually are.
definitely. Well,
Like it's
when you drive from Pittsburgh, if you're driving from like near Pittsburgh to Harrisburg or State College, it's like there's hours where you're not even going to find a gas station.
you're
You're
not
not
going to
getting
find
drink.
phone reception
Yeah,
a
you're
lot of
not.
places. Like
Yeah.
that's like I travel all over the country, or used to theoretically, went back when we were allowed to, and the only places that I run out of phone reception are upstate New York and Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
you get
can
in the
believe that.
mountains, and it happens all the time. But yeah, people don't realize how rural it is, and but it is a nice place to live and and grow up. Like that
Yeah.
area is just it's beautiful. Unfortunately, economically, it's not doing so great now, but
No.
it was growing up as a kid. I think we're about the same age or close to. I'm 45.
Yeah. I'm 46.
Yeah, so growing up in the 80s in that kind of area was awesome.
Yeah.
Run around the woods shooting guns. 14 years old, nobody thought anything about it. And
No. It's normal stuff.
I had a Ruger 10/22 and a 16 gauge shotgun in my closet when I was like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
In my own closet, and nobody thought it was weird. you know.
No, it's just normal stuff. We used to bring our guns to school. People would bring their guns, leave them in the back of their car so they could go hunting after school and not
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
go.
I never
It's
did that.
normal.
I was never that super into hunting, so I never got that far. But I know, yeah, one of my buddies had a shotgun in his senior photo. And it's like
Times have changed.
yeah, they would never allow that now. Like there'd be no way. But yeah, he's sitting there with a Mossberg 500, just in his photo.
Well, when I was a senior, we had a senior project. We had to do a speech on. We had to bring in something in our I don't know if it was literature or speech class. I brought in a sword that I made in high school, and
Hmm.
it was cool. They said just leave it in the office, and I went to the office, got my sword, went up to my class, talked all about heat treating swords and how that the whole deal, and no big deal. Put it in my locker after that, and took it on the bus and went home.
I miss swords. That's something I need to get one of someday. Actually, Lynn said a funny thing about that. I was talking to him the one time I met him at Blade Show, and I was playing one of the swords, and my wife is just that's one thing. She put her foot down. She's like, "No swords. Like you can't have a sword." But I actually know how to use one. I actually took a course in college. I
Uh-huh.
went to a community college. The electives were whatever they could get someone to teach.
Yeah.
And the basketball coach was also like a Renaissance fair geek. So it was like medieval weapons and weaponry or something like that. But actually learned how to fight with an old like medieval style sword, and I've always wanted one. Again, I used to have one. And she keeps saying no. And I told Lynn, I said that my wife wouldn't allow me to buy it. And he goes, well, you could always get someone to give you one. Then she can't say anything about it. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea.
There you go.
I need to start asking all my friends for sword money for Christmas. Just and then I would probably buy a Cold Steel because they're reasonably priced, and I know that they're not going to break or anything if I'm out.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're held to a really hard standard as well.
Yeah, yeah, because I don't want one that's just pretty. I do want one I can swing around and hack at a tree stump or something with,
Yeah.
and actually because it was a good workout as I remember it.
Yes.
It was actually excellent exercise as I remember going through all those sword things, But I'll let you get going. And thanks again so much for doing this the day before Thanksgiving. It's probably going to go up actually on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So I have another video I got to do tonight that I'm time obligated to. And then, yeah, so happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your turkey and you're not passed out. Well, you wouldn't be watching if you were, I guess. I hope you passed out the right amount of time and now you're refreshed and awake and you can watch this. So thanks again, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Good to be here.